Senator Joni Ernst represents the great state of Iowa. Good morning, Senator. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Hugh. Thank you for having me.
Next hour, former President Trump will be joining me. We're going to talk about the election, obviously. How do you feel about his election opportunity right now?
Well, I think it is looking great, honestly, Hugh. I do know and acknowledge it will be a close race, but I think the more people learn about Kamala Harris and actually get to know her and her failures in this last administration, the better it is for Donald Trump. He is running on his record, which was absolutely fabulous. And I know we're going to talk about October 7th. But when we had Donald Trump in office, he brokered the Abraham Accords, which brought peace and stability to the Middle East. And right now, folks, we have the world on fire because of the lack of leadership from President Biden and Kamala Harris.
Now, Senator, it's last night. 60 Minutes released some clips of their interview, which will be on tonight with Vice President Harris. I want to play the first one for you on this 10/7 anniversary. It's been 1 year since the massacre. Here's what Bill Whitaker's first question about that was to Kamala Harris, cut number 2.
We supply Israel with billions of dollars in military aid. Mm-hmm. And yet Prime Minister Netanyahu seems to be charting his own course. The Biden-Harris administration has pressed him to agree to a ceasefire. He's resisted. You urged him not to go into Lebanon. He went in anyway. He has promised to make Iran pay for the missile attack, and that has the potential of expanding the war. Does the U.S. have no sway over Prime Minister Netanyahu?
The aid that we have given Israel allowed Israel to defend itself against 200 ballistic missiles that were just meant to attack the Israelis and the people of Israel. And when we think about the threat that Hamas, Hezbollah presents, Iran, I think that it is without any question our imperative to do what we can to allow Israel to defend itself against those kinds of attacks. Now, the work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles, which include the need for humanitarian aid, the need for this war to end, the need for a deal to be done, which would release the hostages and create a ceasefire. And we're not going to stop in terms of putting that pressure on Israel and in the region, including Arab leaders.
All right, so Senator Ernst, the Bill Whitaker framing is strange indeed, but what did you make of the vice president's response?
Well, let me boil it down for you. Do they have influence over Israel? No, they don't. There is no relationship between President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. They are so weak, they have not been leading. So that's another word salad coming from Kamala Harris. Let's just be very straight about it. I was in the Middle East about a month and a half ago, my 4th trip since October 7th. And one of the Arab leaders that really does want to see peace in that region, he told me straight up, I have given up on the United States of America. Now, Hugh, how sad is that to hear that from one of our closest friends, Arab leaders in the Middle East, that he has given up on us because Kamala Harris can't exhibit leadership. She doesn't influence any of these leaders. And let's compare and contrast again with the strength that came under Donald Trump. Many of those Arab leaders respected Donald Trump because they knew he would do what was necessary. And you know he doesn't like war, but what did he do to deter war? He absolutely had a strong posture against those that went against the United States and our allies. So let me boil it down again. No, this administration, Kamala Harris, has no influence over any of those leaders in the Middle East.
All right, let me play 2 more clips from the 60-minute excerpts that were released yesterday. Cut number 3 and 4 back to back, please, Harley.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
Do we have a real close ally in Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I think, with all due respect, the better question is, do we have an important alliance between the American people and the Israeli people? And the answer to that question is yes.
This is Aspen Institute gobbledygook, Senator. This is not hard power. This is not leadership.
No, Hugh, blah, 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 blah. Thank you so much, Kamala Harris, for your feckless lack of leadership. Yes, Benjamin Netanyahu is a close partner to the United States. The problem is we have a leader who will not work with him and allow him the opportunity to defend his country. So you know what? Israel has gone it alone. Yes, we do continue to provide them most of what they need in their defense, but they got tired of waiting on the United States to stand up for Israel, stand up for that region. Because, folks, it is not just Israel that is threatened by Iran. It is all of these Arab nations that want to turn to the West. They want America to lead, and yet we are not leading. So Kamala Harris, you can hear a little quaver in her voice because, again, she just doesn't even know how to answer this because there is no relationship between this administration and the leadership in Israel. And that is a crying shame. They are the only democracy in that region. We should be tight, shoulder to shoulder, no room between the two of us as we push back against Iran. So the bottom line here is it's the Harris administration, the Biden-Harris administration, that has been appeasing Iran since day one under this ridiculous JCPOA, the nuclear deal brokered by Obama. They tried to go back to that. They have let up on sanctions. So out of one side of their mouth, they'll say, we have sanctions against Iranian oil. And on the other side of the mouth, they'll say, well, don't enforce them. We just won't enforce them. Let them sell their oil. They have enriched Iran to the tune of $100 million and all of that, $1 billion. And all of that has flowed to the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas. And now, because of this feckless lack of leadership, we have not just these terrorist proxies going against Israel. Now we see strikes directly from Iran going into Israel. Twice now. Once in April, once in the last couple of weeks. This has never occurred in history before. And yet we see it under the Biden-Harris administration. So
Senator Ernst,
they're a disaster.
After one of her inanities that she's done during this campaign, I was on Special Report with Brett, and I said, I don't think she has a thought in her head. And a has-been never Trumper thought that was sexist. So I'm going to turn to you, one of her colleagues for 4 years in the Senate and a woman, on an XY graph, with X being the skill sets necessary to be president from 0 to 100, and Y being just raw intelligence so that you can learn new stuff and adopt and grow. Where is Vice President Harris relative to your colleagues in the Senate?
Well, that's a really good question because you pointed out that, I was her colleague for a number of years in the Senate, but I don't remember her ever reaching out to any of us to work with any of us in the Senate. Can somebody please give me an accomplishment of hers that came out of the Senate? Because I just can't find them. So can I rate her intelligence? No, Hugh, I can't because I don't know that she worked in the Senate. That's a problem, folks. That is a problem.
Okay,
So,
you're a Midwesterner. Let's talk about Governor Walz. I didn't think, I'm kind of a Midwesterner. I'm from Ohio, and you spell it Iowa, but we both like Minnesota, but I generally don't think that most Minnesotans lie this way. And he's got just a record of lying.
Yeah, he is an absolute liar. Let's not make it soft and gentle by calling him a knucklehead. He is a flat out liar. The man was running on this great National Guard record, and I appreciate everyone's service. But don't lie about it. You don't have to lie about it. Just say you served in the National Guard, period. Don't talk about carrying weapons in war when obviously you never deployed. Now, I deployed overseas. I am a combat veteran. But I was a truck driver. I led some of the most fantastic truck drivers. I had great mechanics. I had great supply sergeants. I don't need to embellish it. I didn't, run around fighting hand to hand with Iraqis, but darn, we provided a great service to the war fighters. What is wrong with saying I was a great combat veteran? I didn't fight hand to hand with anybody, but I was a great combat veteran. He can't even claim that because he ditched his unit and retired the moment they found out they were going to be deployed. Just simply say, I served in the Minnesota National Guard. Good for you. Don't say you retired as a sergeant major because you absolutely didn't. The man is a liar, people.
All right, Senator, I've got one last question, which is my most concerning one. If Harris were to win, I believe we would fall behind the People's Republic of China. We couldn't keep pace, and I don't think we can close that gap. That's my real fear about a Harris-Walz presidency. What is yours?
My fear is that the world is on fire and it's just going to absolutely explode if she becomes president. Yes, we will fall behind the Chinese. We will be focused more on DEI and wokeness in the military than actually having a competitive edge and training our troops the way they need to be trained as war fighters, as people who want to defend our nation. I think recruitment would go down even further. This military is so demoralized under President Biden and Kamala Harris. And I know you said you would be talking maybe recruitment challenges. It starts at the top, and we need a leader that can inspire, and that's Donald J. Trump.